Hello, viewers! Is my nuruk too old? This homemade nuruk is 15 months old. I'm going to brew makgeolli with it and see what happens. If you like this video, please click that like button and subscribe, and please share this video wherever it is appropriate. And please watch my earlier video to see how I made this nuruk. So I'm going to turn those pieces, those large pieces of nuruk into powder. Hopefully not too much will fly away. Okay, that looks good. So starting day 0, going to make juke. Going to start with 200 grams of rice powder and 1 liter of water. And I'll stir that on medium heat until thickened. So I'm showing you the whole process here so you can see how suddenly it thickens on me right here. And then you remove it from heat. I like to keep it covered. And let it cool to room temperature. That's going to take more than an hour. As we're waiting for that to cool, I'm going to measure out 100 grams of my homemade nuruk turned into powder. And I'll add 100 milliliters of water and a 1/4 teaspoon of wine yeast. And stir that up. So that's a little thick. In order to keep the water ratio right, I couldn't add more water to this. So my juke has cooled down. My rice porridge has cooled down. So I'll add my nuruk mixture, and I'll fold that in, and then really start to stir it. I'll stir it for 5 minutes, and it's going to become liquefied. So that's what I want. I don't want it to be all sticky and solid. I want it to be as smooth and liquid as possible. So that's a lot better. That's going to be easier to pour into the jar. So as you can tell, my homemade nuruk is darker in color than the store-bought nuruk. Just clean off the jar a bit. Keep the lid loose and put it in the cabinet. And I'm going to ferment it in the cabinet. The temperatures are around 18 to 20 degrees Celsius, around 65 to 68 degrees Fahrenheit. So the next day, you can see it's totally liquefied and it's really quite bubbly. Lots of small bubbles. And I stir it twice a day for the first 2 days. And you can see some larger bubbles and sort of foamy at the top on the next day. So this is day 2, and I'm going to make the godubap, the hard steamed rice today, with 800 grams of sweet rice chopped off. Wash the rice gently for 15 minutes. The more gently you can do it, the easier it is going to be to get the water clear. You have to agitate it a bit, but be as gentle as possible. That'll make things, just try to make things easier on yourself, because washing the rice can be one of the more tedious steps in brewing. And if you're gentle, it'll make this easier. So again, I'm showing you the whole process here so you can see how the water gets more clear over time. and soak this for more than 3 hours. And after that time, drain it for 30 minutes. And now the water is boiling in the steamer. Add the drained rice to the steamer. We're steaming this cloth, of course, so it doesn't fall into the water. I'm going to steam it for 40 minutes. Carefully lift it out and spread it out on this rack and some cloth. We want to spread it out to cool to room temperature. So we have the brew, the first stage of the brew in the jar. Stir it up. And then add the cooled rice to it. Stir it by hand. Separate all the grains of rice. That feels good. And then close the lid loosely again and put it back in the cabinet. Okay, then look the next day. There's plenty of bubbles in the jar, and by day 4, it's already separated. You see a layer of liquid at the bottom, and as the days progress, more and more rice is going to fall down. That liquid layer is going to move higher and higher. So day 7, it's in the middle. By day 8, you see it's moved a little higher. And it's progressing nicely. Day 10 it's almost near the top. Day 11, the liquid layer has moved to the top. So we see that clear layer of liquid at the top from day 11 onward. And it's still bubbling. Give it a taste here. Not quite ready yet. But day 14, okay, that's enough. It's ready. It fermented very efficiently. Despite the cool temperatures, my homemade nuruk seemed to do pretty well. So it's time to filter. I boil my filter bag. Stir the jar one last time. And pour it in the filter bag. And it pours in there quite easily. That's as good as can be expected. Okay, let's see how easy it is to squeeze. So it's okay, I can squeeze a lot out of this. Okay, so that's quite good. There's only 175 grams left over. That means good fermentation. This is as good as it gets for me. Even though my nuruk is old, it's done the job. It's a yellowish color. It looks good. I'll taste it right now, right after bottling. It is strong, it's sweet, it has milky aftertaste. It's good. So my nuruk has worked. Despite my nuruk being more than a year old, it has not lost its effectiveness. And I'll give you my real taste test. Here it is. This is what I brewed with my own homemade nuruk. And this nuruk was over 1 year old. So the purpose of this brew was to test to see if my nuruk retained its strength over that time, because I know that the nuruk I buy in the grocery store, it expires a year after manufacture, it seems. So my nuruk was over a year old. Would it still work? And from the measurements I did during the brew, well, for one thing, the brew, the fermentation took place rapidly. The rice broke down rapidly. The chongju layer, the clear layer, appeared and floated to the top. So all of that happened. That seems to indicate successful fermentation, and the amount of jjigae at the end was 175 grams, which is as low as it gets. The last time I got such a low amount of jjigae left over at the end was the last time I brewed with my own nuruk. So I think the enzymes in my nuruk are still powerful. They're still working. And I tasted this yesterday. It tasted good to me. And we're going to taste it again today on camera. So this is the undiluted wanju. I just mixed it up and I'm tasting it here. And it's a little bit sweet. It has a milky aftertaste. It tastes strong in terms of alcohol. So I think it's nice. It's a little bit sweet. It's creamy texture. The color is yellowish. So it's a rich color. Yeah, so this is exactly what I want to brew. This has flavor, tastes like makgeolli, and I made it with my own nuruk. So I'm surprised about several things. One is that my nuruk is still powerful after all this time, over a year. So I'm very glad about that. And the second thing, in the first place, that I'm quite surprised about is that the fact that I was able to make my own nuruk and brew with it, and then it worked reasonably well. I've been able to use it many times. I'm especially surprised at that. I thought making nuruk was going to be one of the more difficult things, but it turned out great. I'm really glad it worked out, and I'm glad it still works today. So this is exactly the kind of brew I wanted to make. I'm really glad to share this recipe with you today. One more thing I want to show you is the color of the chongju. This is going to settle more in the next few days, but the color of the chongju is quite dark. Hopefully this will be a good chongju as well. So I'm really glad with how this turned out. Hope you enjoyed this video. Thank you for watching.